Welcome back to Simplifying the State, the podcast where we break down politics so you don't have to try to figure out why the race for Senate is suddenly looking competitive. As always, I'm Adam Watson.
And I'm Luciano Perman.
All right, before we start, please rate us and follow the podcast wherever you are listening and share it with anyone you think would enjoy it, like Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who, after the results of last night might be sweating a little bit.
He might be. I mean, should we just jump right into it?
Yeah, all right. So for those who haven't been tracking it, big news out of Texas last night. So there was a primary there, and then there was also a primary in North Carolina, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But basically, Texas State Rep James Tallarico won his primary by about 6 points. He was again up against current U.S. House Representative Jasmine Crockett. It was projected to be a close race. It wasn't decided until pretty late. The Republican primary, however, that has gone to a runoff. So there were 3 candidates. None of the 3 secured 50%. So now it's John Cornyn, the incumbent, versus Ken Paxton, the current Texas Attorney General. So right out of the bat, I've been saying this for a while. I think if Tallarico won his primary, I think this race would be competitive. Now that he is, I think, it's Texas, but I think there's a chance that Tallarico can flip Texas blue. What do you think?
I think I'm inclined to agree. I feel like there's a little part of me that's like, ooh, is this just like 2020 hype where it's like,
yeah,
we overestimate everyone in the polls and then it's like, oh, actually he loses by 10. But I think we have a real chance. And I feel like last night more than anything showed that, because you saw like massive turnout among Democrats, more so than Republicans for the first time in I think like 20 years. And just like the insane enthusiasm around Tallarico, especially with like independents and like moderate Democrats, even like people on the progressive side of the Democratic Party, like Latinos, white people, Republicans, even like he's enjoying a crazy amount of support from all over Texas. And I feel like depending on how the runoff goes, I feel like we could see, or for the Republican Party, I feel like we could see like a very big, we could see Texas shift blue. And whether that's enough to like flip it, or like we get in the realm of competitibility, I feel like that's still, it's still going to be really good for the Democratic Party moving forward, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like aside from this Senate race, and this is going to go kind of far out from the midterms, but like after redistricting in like 2030 with the census and everything, Democrats are going to need to make either Texas or Florida competitive. Because like with the redistricting, even if they get all the blue wall states, that's still not going to be like 270. So they need to start focusing in on those states. And I think this could be a good chance to start. Going back to the Senate race, I think that, that Democratic turnout last night is indicative of a Democratic voting base that is eager to vote in something. Even if it's a primary, they are fired up. They are wanting to turn out. They are wanting to vote. They are wanting to express their displeasure with the Republican Party and with, I think, Trump in particular, over some of the actions he's taking. And I think that that's going to be really good. I think that Tallarico's strategy is one that has the best chance of winning, because his strategy is basically to create a really large tent and get as many people in as possible. And I think he's in a really good position to, connect with Trump-curious voters, to connect with voters who, voted for Trump in 2024 because of the economy, but who are now like, I don't like what he's doing, but I'm not sure if I want to vote for a Democrat. I think he has a really good chance of being able to break through with enough of them to really make this race competitive. And I think that's one of the big reasons that Tallarico was, I think, the preferred choice in that primary.
Absolutely. And I think like going back to like what you said about the Big Tent, I feel like it was Elizabeth Warren who was quoted recently saying that the Democratic Party needs to become a big tent party again.
Yeah.
And the pole of that tent needs to be affordability. Like that is the rallying cry that I feel like Tallarico used a lot. And I feel like Wall Crockett agreed on a lot of the same things. I feel like Tallarico attacked it from a more populist angle. And I feel like that's why he was able to secure that like so many more, like 200,000 more votes than Crockett. And again, energize his base and get people out to vote and get people excited, like especially young people. It's because he focused on the issues that actually matter. And I feel like there's a good Instagram account too, and it's called Stalking the Capitol. I love it a lot. But it's a little silly, but they have like a political integrity pledge. And it's like if a candidate promises to like end congressional stock trading, overturn Citizens United, and the revolving door of like lobbyists, and and corporate PAC. We're like, no, not take any money from corporate PACs. then they get the political integrity pledge. And I think Tallarico took that pledge and he
He
ultimately
did.
won the
Yeah.
election. It's
Yeah.
because people value integrity and they value affordability. Those are the two lessons I feel like we should take away from this election. It's that
Yeah.
like candidates or people like candidates who argue for the issues that they really care about and they actually put their money where their mouth is. I feel like Crockett taking thousands of dollars from corporate PACs, especially like Lockheed Martin,
Mhm.
APAC, stuff like that. It's a poison pill for her. And that's like and you're seeing that all across the country, but I feel like Texas exemplified that a little bit. And I feel like, I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but I just think
Yeah.
like the combination of those two things, I think really pushed Tallarico over the finish line. So,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, part of this goes to, I think one of the big things people talked about when they were deciding about who they were going to vote for in this primary was electability. And I mean,
mhm,
it's a primary electorate, so they're a little more tuned into politics and they're a little more like watching what's happening and all that stuff. And I think that there were two things about there were two different like sides of the electability argument. There was like the James Tallarico side where it's like, I think he can appeal to those moderate Republicans. I think he can build a wide tent. And then there was the Jasmine Crockett electability argument, which is like, she's really good at getting attention. She can keep focus on her and all that stuff. And I think that that sort of also connects with the idea and the argument that we as Democrats have been making is that, we want a candidate who is a fighter, right? But
yeah,
we haven't really defined what that fighter looks like. Is it a fighter that goes after Trump exclusively, or is it a fighter that like goes after the establishment, that goes after the really
hmm
rich people? And I think
yeah,
that Tallarico is the latter, and I think Crockett is the former. And I think
hmm
clearly that Tallarico's argument went far. To your point about like the political integrity thing and the
hmm
economy thing, I think that definitely, I think one of the biggest issues in America, if not the biggest issue in America, is affordability, right? I mean,
hmm
Trump is not doing well on that. Republicans are not doing well on that. And outside of the politics, I mean, people are hurting in their wallets. I mean, they're
hmm
seeing the gas prices go up. They're seeing electricity bills rise as a result of like all the AI data centers and other factors. They're seeing grocery prices go up. They're seeing all of this stuff largely due to corporate greed. And I think James Tallarico made that argument and made the case of why he's the best one to combat that.
yeah,
And I think that, when people see this economic disparity amongst their neighbors and amongst themselves, and then they see politicians who are, have hundreds of thousands worth in stocks and they see them getting all this corporate PAC money and all that stuff, I think they get upset because they think that they are also part of that establishment
hmm
that is not doing enough to help them. And I think that, James Tallarico, this has been the cornerstone of his campaign, is talking about how it's not a divide of left and right, but a divide of bottom and top. And I think that that's really been
yeah,
and I think that that's an argument that, helped him win this primary. And I think it's an
mhm,
argument that could win him the general.
yeah. I mean, and you see a lot of the mood right now is incredibly populist. I feel
Yeah.
like in the country right now, like people really do not like the establishment. I feel like
Hmm.
every single Democrat who's in a leadership position who trends more moderate is like negative in the approval rating and by a lot too. I feel like you're seeing general polls of people of Democratic voters who say they want Hakeem Jeffries out as House Leader, they want Chuck Schumer to retire or get primaried by someone like AOC. You're seeing like in many districts across the country, like the words APAC, corporate PAC, super PAC becoming not just more well known, but like known as something that's bad. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, oh my God, it was the New Jersey. I'm just pulling stuff out of my butt at this point, but it's like the New Jersey 11th special election, the Democratic primary for that. It was it was a former congressman who
Hmm.
took hundreds of thousands of dollars from APAC, and then it was a lady who was anti-APAC, anti-establishment, pro-affordability, all this stuff similar to James Tallarico, and she won, and like not by a lot, but she still won and outperformed polls. And then you saw this New Jersey congressman come on to like go to the news and like write an op-ed about how APAC is like a poison pill. It's like these super PACs and these corporate PACs, like getting any sort of dark money or getting any money from any corporation of politics craters your reputation, especially among the base, which, as you said, are the people who are more politically tapped in and are more likely to vote in primaries. And I think
Yeah.
again, you're seeing a movement towards politicians who, like, again, have integrity and relatability. It's not like we're not putting, this isn't 2000, oh my God, what was it? 2006. We're not putting candidates up on pedestals and we're getting the best people to run and they're flawless and they're like, oh my God, and they're like focus group tested and like their polling numbers are good and like they have good name recognition. It's all this stuff. You're getting real people.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that's critical. Yeah, that's what that was kind of the battle I saw between Talarico and Crockett. It's like Talarico presented himself as this like down to earth, relatable person, and Crockett kind of branded herself as like firebrand against Trump.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that, in the last like 20 years, the Democrats, every time they want to run a candidate or do an issue or anything like that, they go through like 50 rounds of focus groups. They go through message testing. They go through all that stuff. And
Mhm,
then by the time it gets to the voter, it feels very artificial. It feels not real. It feels like I can't relate to this, even if I
mhm,
may agree with the messaging. But then like you said, you have these candidates, you have these issues that are just so organic, that are just so like
mhm,
widespread in terms of how they're felt by Americans. And I think that that's the way that you build up a new Democratic Party that
mhm,
is focused on this economic populism, which
mhm.
is what most of Americans care about. I mean, if you hear the word democratic socialism in, say, Arkansas, you're probably going to vote hard no against that. But if you take the time to, explain
Yeah.
democratic socialism and how it's like, you the basics are covered by the government. You get
Mhm.
a strong social safety net for you. You get affordable healthcare, all that stuff. Then I
Yeah.
think they would maybe start to come around. I think that
Absolutely.
economic populism is what's going to help this Democratic Party. And I think that's actually a good segue to move away from Texas and up to Maine really quickly.
Ooh.
Yeah. So in Maine, there Susan Collins. She's been in that seat for like I think 30 years or something like that, in that Maine Senate seat. So right now there's a primary between two candidates: current Governor Janet Mills and oyster farmer Graham Plattner.
Yeah, yeah.
So in that primary, Plattner does much better against Mills. The polling average is I think about 55-2 in favor of Plattner.
It's that high now? Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then in the general election, it looks even better for Plattner. I think
Mhm,
he's at 46.5 compared to Collins' 39
mhm,
in the most recent poll by Pan Atlantic Research
mhm,
with 810 likely voters. He's
mhm,
at 44, she's at 40, with about 16% in the other category. So that can be other candidates are undecided.
mhm,
And I think that his whole like message and his whole brand has been about fighting against the establishment and building up this like economic populist message and delivering that to the people of Maine. And I think that Maine as a state is really receptive to that. And I think that that's the winning argument in Maine. And I mean, Mills, whether you support her as a politician or whether you support her as a person, she
mhm.
sort of represents this establishment and this like moderate centrist class because she was endorsed by Chuck Schumer like right out of the bat, and she was given the funds of like the Democratic Senate campaign to help win her
Yeah,
primary. And so she is sort of seen as this vehicle of the establishment, whereas Plattner is more like down to earth, working class. And I think that that
yeah,
is going to help him a lot, both in the primary and in the general.
yeah. I I think I would agree with that. I'd say again, Plattner's up by 14 million points at this time, but I think
Yeah.
as well as like you're seeing across the country, you're seeing these like Clinton, Obama, Biden era Democrats who are holding on to this older time where like establishment meant good and people like technocratic, really qualified people who were super
Hmm.
polished and perfect. And those people won elections closely, but they won elections, especially in like suburbs and urban areas. I think and that was the strategy Chuck Schumer pioneered. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
all the freaking time was he was very for that kind of politics of like establishment people who have credibility and who have been like for better or for worse career politicians
Hmm.
who fit their state and are relatively moderate and soft spoken. I mean, you see that and you're seeing kind of a pushback again. Like as you said, it's Graham Plattner and Susan Collins in Maine. It's Zoran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo in New York. It's Talarico and Crockett in Texas. Like of every single one of these of these primaries have kind of been a microcosm of what's going on in the Democratic Party right now. It's
Hmm.
do we continue to be the not Trump party or do we move forward and sort of shift towards economic populism and this kind of new age and new era of politics of like
Yeah.
communication and people who are rough around the edges for again for better or for worse. But I think that's a if anything last night proved that that style of politics and that kind of way of thinking works and it can work and it can outperform expectations by a long shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that that's something Democrats sort of hear thing about Chuck Schumer,
Mhm.
that he did pioneer that argument. I think, West Virginia, they were a solid blue state for many, many years. and then the Democratic Party shifted their focus away from the working class and more to those suburban voters outside of the cities. And there was a quote from Chuck Schumer for like every two voters in West Virginia we lose, we'll pick up three in the suburbs. And so you saw the Democratic Party shift away from these working class voters and more towards the suburbs, like moderate, polished thing, like you said. I think that I like some of those politicians. I think they did a lot of good things for this country, but
Oh
I
yeah.
think that their style of politics and what they are arguing for is not going to work in this political environment. And then I also
Mhm.
think it's not what we need as a country. I think we need
Yeah.
radical change when it comes to our economy because of the disparity we're seeing between the top and the bottom
Yeah.
economically. I think there is like some thing where you sort of have to fit the candidate to the state, and that's kind of true
Mhm.
in Alaska because I
Yeah.
think the reason that we are now possibly competitive in a state like Alaska is because we have Mary Patola running there. So for those who don't know, she was their former House rep. They get one House rep. She's elected statewide, and she was that, and she's running against Dan Sullivan. She is not like she's not like Mom Donnie or Plattner, but she is
No.
sort of the Alaskan Graham Plattner, as I
Yeah.
would sort of call her. Like her views are very much Alaska first, focusing specifically on the issues of Alaska, like
Yeah.
fishing, like making sure they have a self-sufficient economy because they can't get much from the lower 48. And I think
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing we need to look at. What kind of economic message is going to work best in the state
Mm.
that it's in organically, of course. Like we can't
Absolutely.
focus group.
No. No. No.
No,
No.
no. But like we have to think about what's going to win. Like Zoran Mamdani will not
Yeah.
win in Alaska,
No.
and Mary Patola is
Patola's.
not going to win
Yeah.
in New York.
No.
Like you have to pick and choose, but like it
Yeah.
needs to be an organic candidate and an organic campaign.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, yeah, I mean, Mary Patola, her whole model for the Senate campaign, I think it's like fish family freedom or something
Yeah.
like that.
I
And
loved seeing that. That
I
was so cool.
I love that so much. Like
Yeah.
we need t-shirts that say that fish family freedom.
I'm
I
pretty
hope
sure
they
she has
I
some on her website. I might buy one,
seriously?
honestly.
Oh,
I
I'm gonna go on
I'd
after this
assume
and
she
buy it.
would, but, like,
I dude, because that's a killer motto to have, like, for a
yeah,
t-shirt. It's but it kinda, like, goes back like what you said, it's like cater your messaging to the people who live in like, to the people who live where you're voting and not voting, but, like, where you're running and where people are voting, and I think Zoran Mamdani you saw with, like, freeze the rent, universal childcare, like, fast and free buses, like, that doesn't work if there are no buses because everything's full of polar bears and moose. It's like,
yeah,
you're and again, fish family freedom, I don't see a lot of fish in New York City, and it's just like, there are like, I wholeheartedly agree with your point that it's like the candidate has to cater to the populace, but they have to like have that level of relatability that you can't get from like a focus group or like overthinking it so hard that you just completely fumble the bag, which we've seen many times with all sorts of candidates run by the Democratic Party. And I think you have to separate that kind of style of politics from the times because it's completely outdated. And
yeah,
also like the mindset of prioritizing the suburbs over rural areas, it's it's not working. And
yeah,
Blue West Virginia will always be in my heart and in my dreams. And I hope we can get back to that point someday. But I'm like, and I think is is there a world in the next 2 years where we flood West Virginia? Absolutely
absolutely
not.
not, no,
Absolutely not.
no.
But
Even in my
maybe
wildest dreams, that doesn't happen, and I do dream about it very often.
believe you me, I am manifesting that every night before I go to bed. Oh my goodness. I'm praying to Jay Rockefeller. Like, but anyways, but I think with the kind of messaging and with the kind of populism, can we win back areas like West Virginia? Maybe.
Yeah,
And I like it's a real possibility. And I think Texas is how we test that. It's like
mhm,
do the politics of economic populism and relatability and big tent, whatever. And does that work in a ruby red state? And if he wins, then I think that provides a lot of like data and a very good model of what candidates in 2026 should be like or candidates in
yeah,
2028. And I think the Senate elections and especially Texas really will really decide what direction the party takes come 2028. Like, do we just keep going with like people from California and New York, or do we maybe pick someone from the middle?
yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a great testing ground because, I mean, most people probably know, at least most people who are as insanely tapped into politics as we have chosen to be for whatever reason, I don't know. But, I think people know that there is a sort of war within the Democratic Party about which road to take. After the 2024 election, there were a lot of people who were saying, we lost because we are too far to the left. We need to come
Mhm.
back to the center on everything, economics, social issues, everything.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I think who wins in these elections is really going to determine what kind of candidate we're going to see on the ticket in 2028, because I mean, if Graham Plattner and James Tallarico and, these progressive, economically populist candidates can win, then I think you're going to see someone in 2028 become who shares that economic populist message. I think you're going to see that become the center focus of the
Mhm.
Democratic platform. And I think, me personally, I think I that should be what we do. I mean, that
Yeah.
is the argument that seems to really be working. But, I think that's just going to provide evidence to
Mhm.
the, Democratic strategists and all that stuff
Yeah.
about what kind of message is really going to work. Obviously there are some, we talked about this, like some races where you don't have like a giant progressive running, North Carolina, Roy Cooper. He's still a really good candidate. I'm really
Oh, yeah.
hopeful that he'll win. He does really well in polls. He's been very good for that state. But again, it's, choosing the candidate that's going to do best in that state and sort of catering choosing the issues that matter to the people in that state and
Yeah.
choosing what's going to work with those people.
Yeah. Relatability is
Yeah.
key. And, like, I mean, it was no question whether Roy Cooper was gonna win that primary or not, but
Yeah.
I think because he's such a household name in North Carolina that,
Yeah.
like, I think he has, like, the name he has, like, the perfect Venn diagram of he has, like, the name recognition of, like, a moderate Democrat, but I think he is not just the kind of person who will just run on experience and, like, "I used to be in charge, so put me in charge again." But,
Yeah.
like, I think it's gonna be a situation of, like, that's gonna be a real test of, like, can a moderate candidate still win on, like, affordability and relatability, and can this style of po is this style of politics not just limited to, like, the center left of the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
And, yeah, I think every single poll has him in the lead by, like, again, 14 million points. I think it's gonna be a wash, knock on wood, for him, but,
Yeah.
I mean, like, again, that makes the Senate tighter, that allows more avenues for progressive candidates to come into these areas and sort of, like, do their thing and maybe win, like, again, picking up places like Maine, Ohio, Texas, Alaska, like, even Nebraska might be in play, and just, like, opening up those avenues, and I feel like allowing progressive candidates to run and making the GOP more nervous is very exciting for Democrats and people in this country who want to be able to afford groceries and gas.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio's another one. I mean, Sherrod Brown, he's a big economic populist. That's
Oh,
like
yeah.
been his whole thing since he's been running in Ohio, and I think that that's why he's been able to, at least until 2024, as I like to call it, the dark year for Democrats. At least until 2024, he was able to hold on to that seat in a state that was, trending Republican for several years, and that economic populism
Mhm.
kept him in that seat, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think in incumbency, this is sort of separate but
Oh,
related.
yeah.
I think incumbency is no longer the boon we all used to see it as. I mean, in AP Gov, we learned about how, oftentimes the incumbent had a huge chance of winning and how it gave him or him or her a giant lead and whatever. But I think that's
Yeah.
not true anymore because I think that people see what's going on in our country with the economy. And I think they're seeing what's going on with these corporate PACs and they're seeing
Mhm.
all these government officials getting rich and
Yeah.
corruption and all that stuff. And they're seeing that the establishment and incumbency is not good for them. It's not working for them. So
Yeah.
outsiders are what they need. And I think that's one of the big reasons that Trump was able to win in 2016 was because he was an outsider. He was a
Yeah.
person who people thought would not screw them over. I mean, he
Yeah.
did, but you know,
Yeah.
he was seen as someone who they could at least trust to not be corrupt, and that
Yeah.
trust was misplaced. Uh,
Absolutely.
I think the incumbency and the establishment are something people are now really sick of, and you're seeing that play
Mhm.
through in these primaries and hopefully
Yeah.
in the general election.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think I don't like there are a bunch of articles on, like, The Atlantic and stuff like that where it's like and, like, Gen Z hates voting for the people in charge. and like, oh, incumbency is this like terrible, but I think a terrible thing. But I think it's not necessarily that incumbency is inherently bad. I just think the incumbents that we have
Mhm.
are not great. I mean, what? Like, I think I saw like a large majority of them are baby boomers or older,
Mhm.
and you're seeing a record number of them retire this year. And I feel like it's a trend that's been exacerbated by the fact that like a lot of these people have been in politics for years, if not decades. And like, I mean, they've done their fair share of good things and like they've done amazing stuff, but the style of politics is outdated and unrelatable, I think. And it's again, it's like this, like the decorum of politics was broken like by Donald Trump, as you said. And I think that kind of woke people up to the fact that it's like, you don't have to be like, you don't have to be like a 5-term governor, 16-term senator to win elections and to like get out there and fight the good fight. I think you're seeing a lot of people who are like head of unions or like part of a union or like just people working in like state senate or state government just that aren't like governors or major household names running and winning because the style like incumbents suck and they're not doing their job well. Again, they're taking money from corporate PACs, like you said. They're trading stocks. They're not listening to their constituents and they're apathetic. And I think apathy more than incumbency is bad now. And
Mhm.
like I think people are really yearning for a real paradigm shift in the way politics is done and how conversations and policy should be done and made. And I think, yeah, it's like these things are related. Absolutely. I think a lot of incumbents are cynical and apathetic and have a mindset of like, oh, nothing's ever really going to get done. So why should I bother?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that apathy is going away. And I feel like in the next 10 to 15 years, you're going to see, zooming out from the midterms, but I think you're going to see a lot of new people who should like become incumbents. And then incumbency is associated with helping the people and being adaptive and like working well. Yeah. And yeah,
Yeah.
that's all I
Yeah,
have
I
to
mean,
say.
I think that apathy, the idea of that fading apathy is definitely true. I mean, why now of all times is a congressional stock trading ban coming up in Congress? It's because
Mhm.
people are pushing their House reps and pushing their senators and just vocally pushing the government to ban members of Congress from trading stocks. You're seeing that activism sort of play out. You're seeing it on so many different issues. And I
Yeah.
mean, to your point about like the age thing, the average age of a House of Representatives member is 57 years old, and the average age of senators is 63 to 64 years old. Yeah.
Jesus.
So, I mean, here's the thing. Age inherently should not stop you from running. Like, I mean, Bernie Sanders is like 150 million years old, and he's still going strong, and I think he's still fairly connected to the people he represents. And I think that it's not just about age; it's about ability to connect with the people you represent. Like, I'll take Nancy Pelosi as a test case. I think she did some really good things in Congress. She made the decision to step down. I respect that decision. Instead of someone having to primary her, I've been following the guy who is most likely going to win her seat, and I think he's really awesome.
He's so
Um,
awesome.
but I think that when you're in Congress for that long, and when you're in that position of power for so long, and this is sort of indicative of that age thing, it becomes harder and harder to put yourself in the shoes of the people you represent. It
Mm.
makes it harder to understand and to empathize with what the average person in your state or what your district is going through. And I think that that disconnect, more so than age, is what is triggering people to call for older members of Congress to step down and to retire and to not run again and all that stuff. And I mean, yeah, that sort of just goes back to your thing about making sure that the members of Congress who represent us actually represent us and understand
Mm.
what our needs are and what we need from them.
Yeah. Yeah. And all really good points. I just like, yeah, age is again a crazy fact. I mean, Chakrabarty. I'm horribly mispronouncing this name,
Yeah,
but
I
the
didn't want to say his name because I knew I was
I
going to butcher it horribly.
I noticed you did that intentionally, and I was like, should I follow? I mean, I took a risk. I failed
Yeah. You
miserably.
know what? You're braver than I am. I
Oh,
knew I was going to butcher that name
thank.
brutally, so I just didn't even try.
Yeah. Again, everyone, all the listeners out there, feel free to correct me in how to
Yeah.
phonetically pronounce this poor man's name. I've
In the
gotten it right
comments,
before in the
brutalize
comments.
this man in the comment section. I beg of you.
No, that's gonna be the Instagram post. It's gonna be
Yep.
Luciano butchered I'm not even going to try. The guy who's running in San Francisco's name, please flame him. That's going to be it. But
Yep.
I think, yeah, age matters. And I feel like, again, as you mentioned, Nancy Pelosi done a crazy amount of good work, broke glass ceilings, pushed boundaries. And I think
Obamacare, that was a big thing. She was a big reason that got passed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, but her time is over. She's 83.
Yeah.
And I think her stepping down was an incredibly noble decision. And it's a decision a record number of Congress people and senators are making. And I think that's one that, like, it's become a trend so overt that it has to be talked about for it to actually, to understand the broader context of politics right now. Because again, the baby boomers grabbed onto power in like the 90s and like not even like the 80s and then never let go. I think we haven't had a president who's been younger than a baby boomer in 30 years at this point.
Obama, and I don't know how old Bush was when he was elected, but Obama was like 40.
Bush was a boomer. I think Obama was but Obama was a boomer. I think he was on the cusp.
I think he's like 50 or something right now.
I'm Googling this.
Hang on. Obama, he was born in 19... Oh, wait, he was, I think. Yeah, he was. Okay, you were right.
Boom, got it. Anyway.
He's on like the edge, though. He's on
the cusp.
Yeah.
Again, we have not had a president who's younger than a boomer, and it feels really weird to call Obama a boomer, but we haven't had a president who's younger than a boomer in 34 years. We've gotten older, actually. I think Trump and Biden are, I think it's either silent or greatest generation, the one before boomers. And again, a lot of Congress, again, as you said, average age of a congressman, 63 to 64. Average age of a senator, 63 to 64. Average age of a congressperson, like 57.
Yeah.
And that's obscene. And you're seeing a lot of those people kind of leave or being pushed out gently. And again, it's that divide between like younger and older. It's the older people in Congress and in the Senate are usually more moderate and more willing or more establishment. Think like Chuck Schumer. And then you have younger people who are more progressive and like pushing for more change and for the Democratic Party actually like do something and be more than the party of just like of not Trump. And I think that kind of divide, again, it's one that has like split the Democratic Party ever since 2024. It's the younger versus older. It's the moderate versus progressive, populist versus like technocratic. It's like all of these things really encapsulate the same issue of like we're split between keep going how it is or change direction completely. And I think, again, you're saying kind of to tie it back to the midterms, but you're seeing that kind of play out with Plattner, with Tallarico, with Patola, with like even Mamdani, Spanbringer, and Cheryl. Yeah, whatever. But
Cheryl.
Thank you. And I think just all of these races and all these people kind of demonstrating like that affordability does work. That younger people can be voted in. People don't have to be establishment politicians and incumbents, but like some experience in government does help. And again, that divide and that juxtaposition between these two sides of the party is either going to shift in one way or the other, or we're going to split into two, and then it's going to be a 1980 situation where it's like, and you see kind of like I don't know, and I don't know where we're heading, but again, I feel like a lot of things prove that the direction we're going in feels like we're trending more progressive, and that progressive policies actually work, and people are waking up to that. So
yeah, that sort of like choosing to retire. The current House of Representatives, the current like non-voting delegate to the House for DC is 88 years old.
Jesus.
Yeah. I mean, she's retiring at the end of her current term, so that's something. She's the oldest member of the House of Representatives. But, again, you see, she was born in 1937, so...
Oh, God!
Yeah. But, like, okay. What I'm hearing is that Mitch McConnell still has, like, 4 terms left in him, at least.
That's obviously, that's the main takeaway from this episode of the podcast.
I think he's going to outlive me by this point, like...
I mean, if he keeps falling and keeps getting back up, I mean, it's only going to make him stronger. So I feel like, again, we will be both 90 and he will be 200.
And he'll still be in the Senate.
He will still be in the Senate. He's never retiring. He will
still be vetoing Merrick Garland for that Attorney General position.
That makes me so mad.
That's an inside joke for people who
know ball. That's
another word could be like politically deranged people who are tapped in all ways and have no life outside of politics. But
people who need to get off their damn phones.
Yeah. which is us. But
yeah, which is us. I think, yeah. I don't know. It's, man, 2026. It's gonna be an eventful year.
Yeah.
Turnout has already been insane. Like, we've outperformed all expectations, and I think overall it's gonna be a pretty crazy year. And I'm excited to see whichever way it goes. It's gonna be incredibly entertaining. And actually, I'm going to check really quickly if Trump endorsed any, but
he hasn't in the Texas race. I don't think he has yet.
Okay.
I'm assuming it'll be in the next week or something like that. Because like soon for him can mean anything from like an hour to 5 days. It doesn't really.
Yeah.
Like,
fair point. Okay.
Like I'm gonna add one last thing though, and then I think we'll wrap up this Yap sesh. I think that you're seeing this. You talked about this earlier. This apathy start to fade, and I think that that's really important for high schoolers, especially young people in high schoolers, to understand as we are coming of age and as we are able to vote and all that stuff. I think it's important to know that voting is not the only way that we can like affect change. And I think that you're seeing that with that congressional stock trading thing. Because I mean, that was not because of all those people threatening to vote them out. It sort of was, but it was people put pressure on their representatives. They used the media tools at our disposal. They used social media to make people aware and to tell their members of Congress, hey, you got to do something about this because I don't think it's fair that I should be living paycheck to paycheck. And, the House rep from the Panhandle in Oklahoma is trading like $200,000 worth of stocks. I don't think that's fair. But yeah, I mean, that political apathy, I think, is starting to fade, especially in this moment. You see more people than ever going to protest, more people than ever volunteering on campaigns, calling their congressmen or women, just doing something to participate in politics. And I think that's a really hopeful sign for the future, because that's the way that we have a strong, efficient democracy that works for everybody.
Absolutely. Oh my God, that was such a freaking cool way to end the podcast. I'm sorry. And that's how we save democracy.
Yeah.
Bang. I don't.
That's gonna be the title. How we save democracy.
How we save democracy, featuring Yeah.
I'm a 17-year-old. I have all the answers for how to fix our political system. Don't worry. Don't even worry about it. If you elect me president, I'll have that stuff fixed in like a day. Trust me.
In a day. He's going to make some phone calls and it's all going to be fine. We are going to simplify the state.
Exactly. We're going to take our name literally. We are going to simplify this state.
Yeah.
And by that I mean we're going to fire Congress and it's just going to be me in charge.
One branch of government. Adam Watson. That's it.
Yep. Have anything else to add?
Not really. I've talked about James Talarico so much. His figure is ingrained into my eyeballs. But
all right. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode. Sorry it was a pretty long one. We'll be back with our next episode probably later in the week with Luciano and Drew. They're going to be talking about something. I don't know what yet.
It's a surprise.
But we'll talk to you guys then.
All right. Bye, everyone. Bye.
See ya.